director here at Sarah Burke House. We're a large facility. We have 58 units here. We're almost always at or near full capacity, which is really indicative of the prevalence of the problem of domestic violence in this city. I think it's really important that men are engaged in this issue. You know, I know traditionally domestic violence has been seen as a women's issue, and a lot of men dismiss it as a women's issue, and they don't even pay attention to it, which has always confused me, because virtually every man I know has a mother, has a sister, or has a wife, or has a daughter, or has a niece that he absolutely loves and adores. And we're in a society now where these women, at a rate of 1 out of 4 throughout their lifetime, are experiencing domestic violence. So these men who have these women in their lives that they care so much about, how can we say it's okay for them to live in this society? We need to do something about this problem. It is essential that men play a role in the movement. And I think we have to be careful about how we go about doing it. As men, we often have a tendency to kind of come in, find solutions, take over. We need to realize that we are way behind the women on this. Women have been leaders in this movement for decades, and I think it's important that we come in ready to listen and to learn from the women who have been doing this work. As men, from the time we're very young, from the time we're young boys, we are bombarded with messages throughout our lives about what it means to be a man. We get these messages from television, from movies, from the music industry, from sports culture, oftentimes from our peers, in some cases from our parents. In these messages, there's generally some common themes that come across in these messages. One of them is that men are not to express emotions of sadness, or of hurt, or of fear, but that it is certainly acceptable for us to express anger. Another theme that often comes across in these messages is that it's okay for men to act violently. And then finally, another message that we're often bombarded with is the fact that women and girls are inferior to men and boys. So when we put these together, it's acceptable for us to be angry, but not acceptable for us to feel a lot of other ways. It's acceptable for us to act violently. And the fact that women and girls are inferior to men, I think that provides kind of a justification for men who are abusers. In their mind, they say, well, if this is the case, then I think it's acceptable for me to act the way I do toward my girlfriend or my wife. Most men, we get these messages, we're not abusers. We don't think it's acceptable to abuse women. But as long as we kind of let those other messages persist, we're providing a support for abusers to justify their actions. So I think as men, what we need to do is to step up and say, these messages are no longer acceptable. We have to end these messages. And I think when that happens, the whole social construct changes. And I feel like at that point, domestic violence rates will drop dramatically. So I'm fortunate that I've always been surrounded by strong women who I really admire. My mother, my 2 older sisters, my wife. And I'm also fortunate that my parents raised me not to be some kind of tough guy, but to be a complete person. And I think that has helped me to have more awareness and to be responsive to ideas about sexism in our society and how that connects with domestic violence. I've also learned a lot from men like Ted Bunch and Tony Porter with The Call to Men. I've learned so much from my colleagues at Sanctuary for Families and Sarah Burke House. And I think most of all, I've learned from the clients who come into our shelter here at Sarah Burke House. They're the ones who've really taught me about the devastating effects of sexism in our society.